Will Goldstein from thekingscourt.com. Always a chance to subscribe by hitting that button down there. A lot of people watching some of the videos these days, especially the one on the historical Jesus. I'm continuing with the series by C.S. Lewis, Screwtape Letters. This is 26. You can always check out my music, thekingscourt.com, or all the links at my channel page. These chapters, which he doesn't really name, there's sometimes more than one theme. I'm giving for this chapter false altruism and resentment. Other themes that you could label this chapter would be something like enchantment mistaken for true love or charity. The reason why is because those two are very interconnected, and as you listen to the story, you'll see how those two are interconnected. We're starting off here with Wormwood being addressed by Screwtape. Courtship is the time for sowing seeds that will grow up 10 years later into domestic hatred. Again, these are demons here. That's what they're trying to promote, hatred. The enchantment of unsatisfied desire humans mistake for charity. Let them think they have solved love's problems. They have only postponed them under the influence of the enchantment. Then stir up problems in secret and render them chronic. People are in love and they're really enchanted with each other's presence, and they think that that's really true love. But really, he uses the word enchantment, infatuation, whatever you want to call it. The demons are trying to introduce demonic influences into the relationship early on, so that as time goes on, when they develop into habits, these will become chronic and destroy the relationship and build up resentment inside the relationship. He says that humans are really not hip to this. So they mistake their enchantment, their infatuation for real love when they're really completely different. Real love is based on charity, and that means loving your neighbor as yourself or loving your mate as yourself, thinking of them on equal terms. So if it's not good for me, if I wouldn't want this to happen to me, then I certainly would not want this to happen to you. That's some of the aspect of charity. Love thy neighbor as thyself, looking out for the best interest of another person. Notice he says, introduce these problems or stir them up in secret so that they really aren't even aware of what's happening. These sorts of problems the demons introduce result in a lot of bickering and fighting in the relationship, and is based really on selfishness. That can in turn affect the enchantment. Enchantment has to do with the married sex. If you're enchanted in that sense with your mate, your spouse, maybe after enough bickering and fighting, you won't be so enthusiastic about the romance. The problem is unselfishness. We substitute unselfishness for the enemy's positive charity. Teach a man to surrender benefits not so others may be happy, but that he may be unselfish. Male and females have a divergence of view about unselfishness. For a woman, unselfishness means taking trouble for others. Like he just said, they have a different view about unselfishness. For a woman, I'm being unselfish because I'm willing to endure. So let's say you're married and your spouse is very sick. Some women would be extremely concerned because they really do have true charity and true love. But other women who are not so much, maybe a narcissistic type woman, might just think this is a major hassle for me, and maybe there's guilt written in there, and so they'll think I'm going to endure this with you. But that's exactly what it is. I'm going to endure this with you. I'm being unselfish. Look what I'm having to go through because of all this, is the attitude. For a man, unselfishness means not giving trouble to others. So a man is more likely to think, hey, I'm just going about my life. I'm not going to hassle you. I understand, need what you need, and I need what I need. and live and let live. So that's being unselfish. For a man to not be manipulative and coercive, trying to force people what they really don't want to do, is a completely different attitude that men and women have about unselfishness. A woman in the enemy's service, to them the enemy is God, will make a nuisance of herself more than a man, except those our father, and that's the devil, the demons, has dominated completely. I think what they mean by nuisance is just making a big scene. A woman who's really sold out to God for the demons is going to create an incredible amount of problems for the demons. Because she believes in God, she's praying, and she's bringing all the forces of God, the angels, let's just say, and the Holy Spirit to the situation, which is the worst imaginable thing for the demons. A woman who's completely out of control, let's say demon possessed by the devil, that also is going to create problems. I think what he's saying for the demons, because she's just so out of control and insane. And the demons really, a lot of the time, they count on being able to work in secret. And a crazy woman who's totally gone and taken over by the devil, that's not going to help, because most people are going to look at that situation and see her for exactly who she is. And that's also creating problems for the demons, who like to do things in secret and manipulate you without you really knowing that they're manipulating you. That's the whole idea. A man will live long in, again, he says the enemies, but it means God's service, because these are demons again speaking, in God's camp, before he undertakes spontaneous work to please others, as an ordinary woman may do every day. The woman thinks of doing good, the man of respecting other people's rights. Each sex can regard the other as selfish. Because of the different nature of men and women, there are some things that women do naturally on a day-to-day basis that are really good, that a man in the service of God might have to be very far advanced in a sense, let's just say. In other words, Spirit's been working in his heart for a long time to get him to ever get to the point where he might do some of the things that a woman will just do every day. Women generally are very conscientious about the feelings of other people, much more than most men are. And so they just naturally gravitate towards being concerned, taking care, helping a woman that they are friends with, and they're really there for them, and they sit around and chat and talk it out. Well, a lot of men may not be so prone towards doing that, unless, like it says, the man has been long in the service of God. Then he might do that. Men are respecting other people's rights. Women protect each other and look out for each other. And they just have different views as to what is selfish. Erotic enchantment produces a mutual compliance, each giving in to the wishes of the other. Sounds like erotic enchantment, so maybe he's talking about love and romance. Each person is wrapped up into it. The man wants the romance just as much as the woman does, so they give themselves to each other. The enemy demands a degree of charity in action. You must make them establish a law for married life of mutual self-sacrifice. When enchantment dies away, they will not have charity enough to perform them. The demon's role is to work in a relationship, and in any case, whether it's marriage or not marriage, if the demons can get them to continuously give in to self-sacrifice, eventually they are going to resent that, and then because of that, the enchantment dies away. In other words, I'm always giving in to you. And the woman's saying, well, I'm always giving in to you. I'm always sacrificing for you. Look what I've done for you. Then resentment builds and the enchantment dies. And eventually, as that happens, then they will not have enough love and forgiveness for each other to put it aside and, like I said, forgive one another, in which case then the romance and love can continue in the relationship. humans mistake sexual excitement for charity, thinking the excitement will last. The confusion in the mind, are they really in love? Do they even know what really true love is, and self-sacrifice in the sense of being able to say, I'm sorry, or I forgive you, or will you please forgive me, or whatever the situation is. True love has commitment and loyalty. A lot of people don't really understand the difference between that. They just think that if they feel this sexual excitement, enchantment, infatuation, that they're really in love, which may have something to do with being in love, and that certainly helps towards immature people developing that relationship into what could become real love. When unselfishness is established as a rule and their emotional resources have died away and spiritual resources have not yet grown, then any joint action becomes obligatory and often impossible to find out either party's real wishes. Notice how he says impossible to find out either party's real wishes. They're constantly giving in to one another. They're trying to be unselfish. In a sense, they're really not being honest about what they really feel and what they really need. And so, because they're always giving in, say I'm giving in to you and you're giving in to me, well, then as this continues on, it becomes a little game of who's giving in the most. And at the end of the day, you don't even know what the real desires are of the person and what they really want out of the relationship, because they're really not being honest. They end up doing something that neither wants. Each feels self-righteous for unselfishness shown and makes a secret grudge out of the other. The grudge, the resentment, for endlessly giving in and trying to be unselfish, but really, as they continuously do this, then a sense of self-righteousness develops within themselves, so that by continuously giving in and being unselfish but not honest, then they resent it and they start holding grudges, which of course is exactly what the demons want to have happen. Instill petty, false altruisms like he is not going to be outdone in his unselfishness. He insists on doing what the others want. They insist on doing what he wants. Passions are aroused, a quarrel ensues. It's sort of inconceivable almost, but I mean, he's putting it in here. You know, the idea of outdoing your partner in your unselfishness. So, and it's really false altruism. True altruism is doing something without expecting anything in return at all. For example, I'm doing this video right now. I know I'm never going to make any money out of this. False altruism means that you're doing it and pretending to be altruistic, but you're really not, because you're resenting it when you don't get something back. So it's not genuine altruism. They're trying to outdo each other. Then they start getting mad, and finally they end up quarreling. It's a real big joke. If each side had been contending for its own real wish, they would have kept within bounds of reason and courtesy. But because the contention is reversed, fighting the other side's battle, bitterness flows from thwarted self-righteousness. They're developing bitterness from thwarted self-righteousness. It's not genuine, it's pretense. They're pretending to really be genuine in their altruism, but it's not. And so they end up being bitter at one another. If they would have just spoken the truth and said what they really needed, then none of this would have happened. But the demons have twisted their sense of spirituality so that they've confused the idea of genuine generosity and genuine love and concern and charity. Sometimes people do things and they think to themselves, well, I don't really care whether I get anything in return for what I'm doing. But the reality is that if they don't get anything in return, then they're resentful. So it wasn't genuine to begin with. So genuine generosity means that you're giving and you truly do not expect anything in return. A little real selfishness is often of less value than self-conscious unselfishness, which blossoms into mutual falsehood. It's just a lie. It's not genuine at all. It's all pretense. Personally, I can't stand pretense. Just give it to me straight. Please tell me what you think, tell me what you feel, and I'll do the same. Beating around the bush and all this pretense about this is what I'm saying, but I really mean this. Let's just say that can be extremely damaging in a relationship. I've actually heard somebody say something and then commented, don't you know that when I say this, it really means this? In that case was the opposite. As though that is supposed to make any sense at all. It means the opposite, but you should know that. He's saying here, they would have been better to have been a little bit selfish than to give this false altruism. Just say what you need. Say what you feel. Say what you really think. Be genuine. Don't pretend to be some saint when you're not rewarded for being the saint, then resentful and bitter. The girl does not notice how unselfish he is being, and he resents it. Don't let the young fools notice this. They'll discover that love's enchantment is not enough. Charity is needed and not yet achieved, and no external law can supply its place. The whole thing behind the demon's mindset is to do all this in secret so that you don't really notice what's happening. Because the only thing that really ultimately keeps the relationship together is genuine love. With all these games that the demons are introducing into the minds of these people who have been bewitched, let's say, then the demons will just destroy their relationship because they didn't have any genuine, real love to protect themselves. The best thing in life is just be true to yourself. Say what you think, say what you feel. Anything else, it's a demon's game.